Alright, so recently I've been using ChatGPT to make tier list videos and you guys seem to enjoy it very so much. So today we are back again with another tier list, so let's see what he gives us. Alright, so we got how scary killers are based on their looks tier list. Alright, rank killers purely on how terrifying their appearance are, ignoring gameplay mechanics, use tier lists like nightmare, fuel, creepy but cool, unsettling, kinda spooky, not scary at all. This lets you focus on the aesthetic and design of the characters rather than in-game power or skills. Alright, so starting off we got Trapper. Now Trapper isn't really as scary as some of the other killers in this tier list, but I guess he's slightly spooky, so I guess I'll put him up there in kinda spooky. Next up we got Wraith. Now I feel like Wraith's a little bit scarier than Trapper, but nothing too crazy, so I guess an unsettling is where this guy is going to go. Next up we got Billy. Now Billy is basically like similar to Wraith in a way. He's not really that creepy, he's not that terrifying, but I guess he's somewhat scary, so I guess I'll put him up there in unsettling next to Wraith. Next up we got Nurse. Now Nurse I feel like it's more scarier than Billy or Wraith or even Trapper. She's basically just a dead nurse that has no eyes, so I guess I'm gonna put her out there as creepy but cool. Next up we got Myers. Now I feel like Myers is similar to Nurse here. He isn't that scary though. If you watch the movies, like if you watch the Halloween movies, you would probably think otherwise, but overall, in my opinion, there's a lot more scarier looking killers, so I guess I will put this guy up there as creepy but cool. Next up we got Hag. Ignoring all game mechanics, as ChatGPT said, Hag is realistically a weak killer, but based on aesthetics and look, she would look actually very terrifying, I guess you could say. So I guess I'll put her up there as nightmare fuel. Next up we got the Doctor. Now Doctor, again, I don't think he's nightmare fuel material. I think he is terrifying but not as terrifying as some other killers, so I guess I'm gonna put this guy up there as creepy but cool. Next up we got the Huntress. Now Huntress is more similar to Trapper here. She's not as terrifying as some of the other killers, to be quite frankly honest. She does have a lullaby which makes it a little bit more terrifying, but again, she isn't that spooky, so I guess I'll put her up there next to Trapper as kind of spooky. Next up we got Booba. Now Booba is a scary killer, to be honest, not gonna lie. He's not that terrifying compared to like other killers in Creepier, Cool, or like even Nightmare Fuel, so I guess I'll put her up there as unsettling. Next up we got Freddy. Freddy is like similar to Boba here, like he's not really as terrifying as all the other killers here, so I guess I will put this guy up there in unsettling tier as well. Next up we got the Pig. Realistically, the Pig isn't really that terrifying in my opinion. She's slightly scary, so I guess I'm not gonna put her in not scary at all tier. I feel like she can be slightly terrifying, but not that terrifying that makes you wanna poop your pants, so I guess I'll put her up there in kind of spooky. Next up we got Clown. To be honest, I don't really find this guy that terrifying. He's just a clown at the end of the day, clown you find in a circus, so I guess he's gonna be the first killer that I place in not scary at all. Next up we got Spirit. Now Spirit, she can be definitely very terrifying, to be honest. She can definitely make you poop your pants. If you see her in real life, you're probably gonna look the other way, so I guess I'll put her up there in Nightmare Fuel next to Hag. Next up we got the Legion. Next up we got the Plague. Now realistically here, the Plague, she is creepy. She definitely is creepy. I don't think she's Nightmare Fuel worthy though. I feel like she's not as terrifying as some of the other killers here, but overall I do feel like she is creepy but cool material, so I guess that is where I'm going to place her. Next up we got Ghostface. Now, I feel like Ghostface is very similar to Myers here. He's creepy but cool at the same time. He's not the most terrifying killer out of this tier list here, so I guess creepy but cool is where he is going to go. Next up we got Demo. Now to be honest, if you see a Demogorgon in real life, you're probably gonna be very terrified. If you've seen Stranger Things, Yeah, you probably know what I'm talking about. So I guess I put up there straight up in nightmare fuel. Next up, we got Oni. Now Oni is a slightly harder killer to rate, I feel like. He's terrifying, but not as terrifying as some of the other killers. So I guess creepy but cool is where he is going to go. Next up, we got Deathslinger. Now Deathslinger, again, very similar to Oni here, even Doctor at this point. He really isn't as terrifying as some of the other killers in Nightmare Fuel, but overall, he's creepy and he's cool, so I guess very nice design. I'll put him up there in creepy but cool. Next up, we got Pyramid. Now, Pyramid is a little bit harder to rate, but since we're mainly going appearance only and only character design, it's really not that bad. Like, he can be terrifying, but not as terrifying as the other killers. He's mainly just a guy wearing a pyramid on his head. So, not exactly that terrifying in my opinion. So, I guess I'll put him up there in unsettling tier. Next up, we got Bleed. Now, Bleed, honestly, if you see this guy in real life, you're definitely gonna be terrified of him. He isn't a friendly killer, doesn't really have a friendly face at all. So, I guess I'll put him up there in Nightmare Fuel. Next up, we got the Twins. I don't really find this killer terrifying at all, to be honest. Like, aesthetic-wise, not too bad, I guess. It's alright, but compared to some other killers, it's very, very mid in my opinion. So, I guess I'll put her up there in unsettling tier. Next up, we got Trickster. I mean, he really isn't that terrifying of a killer, to be honest. He's an annoying killer, but not that terrifying. Based on the appearance, he has very, very cool appearances, but he's not that creepy or anything like that. So I guess I'll put him up there as kinda spooky. Next up, we got Nemesis. Now, Nemesis definitely can be very terrifying. If you played Resident Evil, you would also know. But is he terrifying enough to be in Nightmare Fuel? I honestly don't feel like he is. He's close, but not that close. So I guess I'll put him up there as creepy, but cool. Next up, we got Pinhead. Next up, we got the Artist. Now, Artist, she's creepy, but not as creepy as some of the other killers in creepy but cool tier. So I guess overall, she kind of really works most in unsettling tier. Next up, we got the Onryo. Kaboom. Next up, we got the Dredge. To be honest, his appearance mainly speaks for itself. I'm just gonna go ahead and put this guy up there in creepy but cool. Next up, we got Wesker. Next up, we got the Knight. Now, Knight definitely has a creepy but cool look. Honestly, his aesthetic and appearance very, very suit him. He's a knight at the end of the day. But he is very, very high detailed, so I guess I'll put him up there as creepy but cool. Next up, we got Skull Merchant. Next up, we got the Singularity. Now, you would definitely be terrified if you ever saw him in real life. You're probably just gonna look the other way. This guy has some very, very terrifying appearances, to be quite frankly honest. Definitely one of the most terrifying killers in the game. So, I guess I'll put him up there in Nightmare Fuel. Next up, we got Xenomorph. Meow. Next up, we got Chucky. Now, if you've seen the movies, you would know that Chucky is just basically like a possessed doll, basically, like in the simplest way. I really hate dolls. I'm very much terrified of them. So I guess I'll put him up there in Nightmare Fuel, without a doubt. Next up, we got the Unknown. Realistically here, this guy is kind of funny to look at. He is definitely creepy, but I feel like his appearances is just very odd. So I guess based on that, I'll put him up there in creepy but cool. Next up, we got Vecna, or I guess the Lich. To be honest, this guy, I was originally gonna put him as creepy but cool. However, on second thought, this guy, if you ever saw him in real life, you would probably be terrified of him. His appearance is very insane. So I guess I'll put him up there in Nightmare Fuel. Next up, we got Dracula. Now, Dracula, again, is just mainly a vampire. He's not as terrifying as some of the other killers here. But overall, I guess he deserves a spot up there in creepy but cool. Last but not least, we got the Houndmaster. To be honest, definitely not Nightmare Fury worthy in my opinion. I don't feel like she's better than any of the other killers here. So I guess I'll put her up there in creepy but cool. But anyways, this is my tier list for how scary killers are based on their appearances. Some of you are gonna agree with me, some of you are gonna disagree. That's always how a tier list goes. But anyways, with all that said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good night, guys.